That's what we're going to learn today. We're going to learn a little bit more about baker's percentages. So you want to know how to make your own recipes? That's what we're going to learn today. Welcome back to A Baker's Journey. We went over a little bit about baker's percentages in my last couple of videos. You heard me talking about, 100% of this, 50% of that, so on and so on. I want everybody to understand the key concept around baker's percentages and how it can really, push forward your career and really take out the stagnant in baking. Like a lot of people, you look at a recipe and you see this recipe, you do the recipe and so on and so on, but you don't really get that creative aspect to it. So one thing that I've taken on a lot in my experiences with baking is I usually don't just go online and look up a recipe. What I do is I develop one, and you can do this with baker's percentages. Hopefully you guys can take away from this video and actually be able to write your own recipe, and it can be very simple or it can be very difficult. So if you're making bread, take 100% flour, whatever that is. Okay, so 100% flour, and I'll point here, hopefully it's here, will be, so 100% flour can be any weight that you pick. So let's choose to do it in metric. So we have metric is grams and kilograms. So 100% could be 200 grams, 600 grams, 900 grams to 20,000 grams or 20 kilograms. Take that weight, and that is your base amount. So you have, say, a 20 kg bag of flour or a 5 kg bag of flour. You're not going to make that much bread at home. That would be ridiculous. But as you can see, I made a 4,000 gram batch behind me. Hopefully I have enough room in my oven for it. So you have 100%, let's just say it's 600 grams of flour. So your flour will always be your main ingredient in a bread recipe. That's what you have the bulk amount of. So you have 100% of flour, which is 600 grams. And then you base off of that all the other ingredients. So let's say we're making a sourdough today. That sourdough would be, say, 600 grams of flour, and then 50% of that would be water. Let's just say that. We have 600 grams, so we have 300 grams of water. And then 50% of that would be your 100% hydration sourdough starter. So 100% hydration sourdough starter would be, say, 100 grams of flour, 100 grams of water. That's 100% hydration. I hope you guys are understanding this. You have your 600 grams of flour, which is 100%. You have your 50% water, which is 300 grams. And then you have your 50% starter, or levain is what they call it, or levain, and that would be also 300 grams. And then you would have, say, 2% salt. Like I said in my last video, 2% seems to work all around. Basically what you do is you go 0.02, which is 2%, times 600 grams. And that would give you your salt amount. So right there you have a sourdough-based recipe. And from that, you can do all kinds of other things. It's quite amazing what you can do with it. So if you take, say, a bread recipe, just a regular white bread recipe, and I'll give you a challenge here. Make your own white bread. So one thing that I've realized is that 50% hydration is great for white. Anything from that right up to 65. 65 is kind of pushing it just for a regular white bread. You're getting pretty loose dough at that point in time. I usually try to get it in between there somewhere. So usually I'm around, say, 50 to 58% hydration. And when I talk about hydration, I mean the water level that you're putting in it, or the amount of water that you're putting into the dough. I recently started developing cookie recipes, muffin recipes, loaf cake recipes, all kinds of different recipes. Mostly where I learned how to do baker's percentages and develop my own recipes was in bread, and then I just carried those theories behind that and carried it over to other things like cakes, cookies, pies, quick breads, scones, anything you can possibly imagine you can use it. I've used it in sauces like berry sauces, berry compotes. So let's say we have a basic white bread. So we have 100% flour, which could be anything. So let's just say we're going with 1,000 grams because that's an easy one to do the math on. 1,000 grams of flour with all your other ingredients might not fit in your regular KitchenAid. You might have to do that by hand. Like I do show in my videos, we do a lot of breads by hand. It's the best way to do it. Using a KitchenAid mixer, it's quicker and it's more efficient. I can actually leave a link for this KitchenAid mixer is a Professional Pro Plus. In my link and my description below, I'll leave the link for you guys, and you guys can check it out. They're around $500. It's a pretty costly investment unless you're going to continue to get into baking. Hopefully these videos inspire you guys to get into baking a little bit. Maybe it's something that you could look at in the future, and that would make things a lot easier for you. They're great for cookies, pies, meringues, everything that you can possibly imagine. So let's really get back into this baker's percentage. So we have 1,000 grams of flour. That's going to be your base recipe for your white bread. So then I want to have, say, 55. Let's say 57% hydration. So I'm going to go 0.57 times 1,000, and that's going to give me 570 grams, or this recipe here. Then I'm going to have some sugar. Let's say I want kind of a sweet, like you don't want to overpower things, and you'll learn your own percentages as you go along. Like I said, I found that 2% salt works well in a recipe. Sometimes I drop it down if I'm using salted butter or something like that. But you really, truly you don't want to go overboard when you're going with small ingredients. Water, you can kind of go overboard a little bit. It's not going to affect the dough too much, but you're going to have a different crumb if you go over way too much. Same as if you go really low, it's going to take a long time to proof. It's going to be a dry loaf, and it's not going to get a lot of oven spring when you put it in. So we have 1,000 grams, and we have 570 grams of water, which is 57%, right? Sugar, let's just say we're going to go 4% sugar. So we're going to go 0.04, which is 4%, times 1,000 grams. And that's going to give you 40 grams of sugar. You're making a white bread, a basic white bread. It's going to be enriched. You need to enrich it with something. It's not a French bread. It's not an artisan bread. It's a very quick bread to make compared to those kind of breads, and you want it to be soft and fluffy and have a nice crumb to it. So you want to have some enrichment to that. So when I talk about enrichment, I mean you want butter, eggs, fat, like stuff like that. That's going to enrich in your dough, and it's going to make it a lot soft and more fluffy, and the texture is going to change. When you have, say, a basic French bread, and your French bread is just flour, water, salt, and yeast, it's going to have a totally different texture altogether. It's going to be lighter, it's going to be airier, it's going to have, with the steam, it's going to have a nice crispy crust on it, and it's not going to be sweet at all. Actually, I'll get into that a little bit, because when you use pre-ferments, you're going to bring out some natural sugars in your bread, but we'll get into that in later videos. So right now we have 1,000 grams of flour, we have 570 grams of water, and we have 40 grams of sugar. So like I said before, we can probably use 2% salt in this, but play with it. That's what I'm getting here. Like you're not gonna lose anything. You might have a messed up loaf. We all have messed up loaves. We bake things, and then you try something new and something doesn't work out for you. That's fine. That's how we learn from our mistakes, and we learn to open the horizons a little bit. You can read and you can research, but unless you do this stuff and you make mistakes, you're not going to learn. So I encourage mistakes. They are important for a learning process. So we have, let's say, 2% salt, and we're going to times that by 0.02 times 1,000, and that gives you 20 grams of salt. So right now we have 1,000 grams of flour, we have 570 grams of water, we have 20 grams of salt, and 40 grams of sugar. So that's kind of a base of a loaf. We just want to enrich it a little bit. So I usually add, and this is the secret of mine that I've been using for a long time, but a lot of people use oil in their breads, or they use olive oil or regular canola oil. Your shelf life is going to be a lot better if you use shortening. And I don't know a lot of other people that do that. I don't melt the shortening. I just put the whole shortening in and kind of mix it around with the flour while I'm kneading the dough. That seems to give me a really amazing texture and a really soft feel to my bread. Let's just say we're going to add, 2.5 to 3% fat, and that'll give us some enrichment to our bread. So we're going to say 2.5, so 0.025 times 1,000, and that is going to give me 25 grams. So you can see where this is kind of going down. I'm using that base amount of flour, and I'm getting my percentages off that. So I have 100% of flour, and then all my other percentages are on that. If you really wanted to get into more about baker's percentages, you can actually get down to calculating right down to a precise T of how many loaves you're going to be making. I just recently worked on a honey oatmeal loaf, just a sandwich loaf, and it's kind of like a multi-grain bread. And that loaf specifically, it took me a little bit of doing the math, but once I got the math down, I could figure out I need this much flour to give me exactly 3 1 pound 9 ounce pieces of dough. So I encourage you guys, try this out and really push forward to test different recipes and try your own stuff. When using baker's percentages, yeast is not really it's not really pertinent to baker's percentages. I do use it with baker's percentages. When I get up to really high amounts of flour, I usually drop my percentages quite a bit. No matter how much yeast you have. No, you can go overboard on yeast, don't get me wrong, but if you have a small amount of dough and you want to double that dough, you don't need to double your yeast. All you're going to do is you're going to make it happen a lot quicker. Usually I go around, 0.8% with the baker's percentages on my yeast. So that'd be 0.008 and then times 1,000 grams. And that would give me 8 grams of yeast. So now we have our recipe, which is 1,000 grams of flour, 2% salt, which is 20 grams, 4% sugar, which is 40 grams, 25% fat, which is 25 grams. We have our yeast, which is 8 grams or 0.8%, our water, which is 570 grams or 57%, and this is going to create a bread. Please don't forget, like and subscribe to my videos. I'm going to have feeds like this all the time, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like I said before, if you have any questions, just comment below. You can reach out to me on my Facebook page, which the link is right here, and I'll answer any questions there as well. Like and subscribe because you're going to get more info like this, and I'll probably be doing some basic white bread with you guys if you guys already haven't done it yourselves, because I kind of gave you some information that you might want to play with a little bit and try to make your own white bread at home. I have a really good recipe that I want to share with you guys, and I'll be making not only white bread but dinner buns and maybe some Scottish baps, and I can show you how that works a little bit and how you can take one dough and make more than one thing out of it. So anyways, you guys have a great day, and I'll see you on my next video.